The bill for an act to establish the National Youth Service Corps Trust Fund passed second reading in the House of Representatives. Since then, stakeholders have been talking about the bill, especially why it should be passed into law. This will form part of the program this week on Legislative Update. Welcome to the program. I am Charity TANKO, your regular host. Stay tuned. I'll be right back.
Independent television is live 24 hours on GoTV Channel 107, Star Times Channel 130 and TSTV Channel 364. And you can watch from any part of the world on Roku TV, Smart TV, Amazon Fire TV and Android TV for your favorite programs, news, current affairs and lots more. You don't want to miss our objective and balanced reportage, entertainment and sports. Follow us on all our social media platforms. Watch ITV via live streaming on the internet. Also remember to visit your mobile app store and download the ITV app so you can watch on the go. For advert placement and commercials, please call the following numbers: 0805-563-8573, 0803-775-5024, 0708-365-2474, and Independent television, certainly the best.
The bill for an act to establish the National Youth Service Corps Trust Fund seeks, among other things, to give Corps members the opportunity to become self-reliant after service by giving them starter packs, especially those who acquired vocational skills. A stakeholder whom I had a chat with said the Nysc Trust Fund is a welcome development. This chat will be followed by the motion on resurgence of military coup in West African sub-region. The House constituted 2 ad hoc committees to look into the state of the nation's refineries. This also will be followed by the question of the week, after which powers of the legislature will come on. This is just to give you a quick rundown of what to expect on the program Legislative Update this week. Representative Akinremi Mayowa sponsored the bill on the Nysc Trust Fund, and this is how it went at plenary.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to move that a bill for NANA to establish National Youth Service Corps Trust Fund, NYSC-CF, to provide a sustainable source of funds for National Youth Service Corps, skill acquisition, training and empowerment of Corps members, training and retraining of personnel of National Youth Service Corps, development of camps and NYC formation and facility therein, and for related matters.
In a chat with Mr. Jonathan Isaac, who is a security expert, he underscored the importance of the trust fund. He said if passed into law, it will aid in reducing crime, especially amongst youths. This is the interview.
Alright, sir, if I really understand correctly, you have seen, you watched the proceeding on the floor of the House, and what is your interest in this bill? Let's start from there.
Well, my interest in this bill largely depends on the Nigerian youth. And then when we talk about Nigerian youths, we are involved one way or the other. We are still involved. And when I look at the framework of the bill, the legislative frameworks of the bill before the National Assembly, I define that it's a perfect legislative framework that I've ever seen in a night assembly. And then, what is the bill for? A bill that is intended to pull funds to enhance the skills and entrepreneurship capacity of our youths in this country. That such bill should go through even without necessary legislative duties and all of these committees. But it is necessary. So gray areas, because there's no perfect legislative framework, so that gray areas can equally be tied up and then to ensure that where the need to consider the pros and cons are equally brought in and back to the bills, because it could be there are some areas that are not well tied up, and it could be there are areas that even needed to be added up after so much research, considering the pros and cons of this bill when considered before the night assembly. It is going to help Nigerians to get it on.
When it comes to vocational training, skills acquisition, one may argue that the tertiary institutions already have that, because you know that before you graduate now, you will maybe there's a semester or like two a session that before you graduate you will learn a skill. Now people may say that why do we have to have this in the National Youth Service Corps when it's already running in the tertiary institutions? What would you say to that?
What we have today in the tertiary institutions are all excursions, are not skills acquisitions. Excursions is not enough to practicalize these skills acquired after service. And even if possible, for one who must have maybe, let me take it to the lowest, that a barber who may just have an idea of how to use the clippers or how the clippers is being formed, and that life after service requires that there should be a startup package for him to start things. I don't think all of these things are put across to the institutions. We are not considering whether they are not going to get these skills at the end of the day. No, we are considering how to start the skills that is already acquired, because there are so many trained and experienced persons walking on the streets of Nigerians aimlessly today. But when we have those people and give them something well monitored and then check time to time, they'll put their feet on ground to do what is to do it better than what you see them going on excursions and come out without anything. So many schools go on excursions, even extorting money from students before excursions are made. Is that the kind of skills that we say they have acquired? All that, these are not skills acquisition, but they are all excursions, all intended to just get one or two ideas about how it works. But that does not cover up the major areas where these people should have been taught how to use it, how to get some of these funds, how to access the funds, and how to remit the funds. These are the areas where this NYSC Trust Fund is just coming. It's not like I said, it's a vehicle that is intended to pool funds for Nigerians youth. It is going to be live after service.
Okay, so do you see this addressing some of this get-rich-quick syndrome that we seem to have among the youth?
Of course, it's going to address large quarter of it, and that percentage of it, the youth are always at the front corner, at the front burner of all of these things. When because it is get-quick syndrome in our youth that today, that makes some of them behave, some of them react to some of the issues. And then again, the policies of governments in some areas does not favor them. And then there are not proper measures put in place to convey some of these NGOs or some of these organizations that are bringing some of these. Imagine the idea of MMM in some years back. You know how so many Nigerians, were flooded and things and how it works. So this is not the time for get quick rich, but it is time to easily access funds so that you can use it and in return a bit after. Because the essence of the bill is not just to give money freely to Nigerians, it's just to give money to you and see how you can start up easily.
Okay, the problem with Nigeria has never been lack of policies or programs or laws, but it's always been implementation. Even when it comes to the budgets, there's always the issue of implementation. Now, what would you say should be done to ensure full implementation, monitoring of how these funds will be dispersed and how they are used?
Well, take for instance the issues of the COVID-19 loan and the process that was generally accepted, the views accepted for the disbursement of this bill. Those ones that are genuinely dispersed. You see, you have to have a place, you have to get something, they have to get details by you, and more so that these COP members have their registrations and have been the COP member, there are data that are already with the government. So it is very easy for government to actually monitor who these funds are given to or who these funds is not given to. And one will not come and assess it twice because I understand that the bill covers all of these gray areas where a youth COP member can maybe immediately after service we decide to write some proposals to this particular agencies, puts this what he or she wants to do, state of residence, and how this money in time will be remitted. Because it's not just about free money; it's to just make it flexible for COP members to access funds and do something as a life, like I put it, is a life after service. So I believe that the organizations have what it takes to monitor and implementations will not be a problem if it is well coordinated.
The bill just killed second reading.
Yes.
Probably it will go for public hearing, and that is where the major decisions will be taken after public hearing. Every other submissions will be put together, and then the committee will now make their own recommendations. Now, I want you to advise people that may turn up for the public hearing, and then also advise lawmakers at the end of the day when it comes to that time when recommendations will be made, and as well also advise the end users when we're talking about the core members.
I want to use this opportunity, just like you said, to first commend the National Assembly, the Ninth Assembly, and also to advise that there should be a speedy passage of this bill into law. And also, I want to equally appreciate the initiator of this bill of the House of Reps, and then to now come up with certain strategies as to see how to sensitize Nigerians about what the bill is all about. This is where to start from because so many Nigerians don't even understand what the Nysc Trust Fund comes in, and that's the reason why they have not even gone further to go put the pros and cons together to know the benefits when passed into law finally. So we need to sensitize Nigerians, and then the end users, which are the COP members and all of this, we need to equally sensitize them. Not that it's a framework per se, but it is an availability of, it's an avenue where you can access funds easily and not without thinking even as life after service. So when you they're not in the local parlance, they say an idle man is a devil's workshop. So when you're not idle, if you want to go into pure water productions, this is how to go about it, and you have to write a proposal, and then all of this mapping has to be put together. You must have some structures in ground before these funds can be accessed. It doesn't just come from heaven and say you want to access funds without even having any structures in ground. So, believing me that the implementation process wouldn't be a problem, and those are going to turn out for the public hearing. Of course, you and I will be there. We are going to go for further research as to putting the pros and cons of this bill, the benefit of this bill together, and then give this out a successful and a perfect idea that will further strengthen the bill before this night and before a smooth passage of the bill.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
I have been talking to Mr. Nysc. He is a security expert. He knows so much about youth empowerment. He is very interested in seeing Nigerian youth being empowered so that they can stay away from all these vices that we're experiencing in Nigeria currently. Hopefully, with this bill, there is, let's just see, the light at the end of the tunnel for core members. Like you said, life after service. Core members will be able to start off without whether you have a white collar job or not. At least you have something that you can start off life with. Well, we'll go back to the chambers and see what's happening there.
The House of Representatives last week constituted 2 ad hoc committees to ascertain the actual daily consumption of premium motor spirits, also known as petrol, and the actual cost of rehabilitating the nation's refineries.
The issue of fuel subsidy, which has come to a head today in Nigeria. That issue has been there for a long time. Like I said, it has now come to a head. And I think it's time for the House to take some major steps to give direction as to which way to go. But before anything like that can be done, it's important that we find out, we do a thorough investigation to determine exactly how much PMS is consumed in Nigeria per day. Nobody has a figure, and we need to figure out exactly what we're consuming in Nigeria. It's only after you figure out what is consumed that you can even begin to talk about whether you should have fuel subsidy or not. That's number one. Number two, we need to also investigate thoroughly the state of our 4 refineries, the state of repair or disrepair, and what exactly it will cost to have them functional. So this House is now saddled with the responsibility of, 1, determining how much consumption or how much fuel we consume on a daily basis, and not relying on some phantom figure. It's going to be painstaking and it's going to be thorough. 2, what exactly is the state of our refineries and what do we need to bring our refineries back into maximum use? Those 2 things have to be determined before we even get to the issue of fuel subsidy.
The military coup in Burkina Faso also formed part of discussion at plenary in the House of Representatives as lawmakers took turns to deliberate on the danger of military coups in West Africa's sub-region.
The matter of urgent public importance is on the creeping resurgence of military coups in the West African sub-region. The House knows with high apprehension the frightening emerging trend of military coups in the West African sub-region, the most recent being in Burkina Faso, being part of a resurgence of a coup culture in West Africa. Further notes that for the 4th time in only 6 months, coups d'etat have precipitated the transfer of power in West Africa, most recently in Mali with the overthrow of President Ibrahim Keita, in Chad with the takeover of power by the military following the death of President Idriss Deby, in Guinea with the overthrow of President Alpha Condé, and in Burkina Faso a few days ago with the overthrow of President Roch Kabore. Also notes that this illegal takeover of power from democratically elected governments violates several national constitutions, international conventions and protocols established by multilateral organizations, donors and development partners. Aware that since Nigeria, the traditional powerhouse in the sub-region, transited from military to civilian governance in 1999, there has been a strong sense that the days of military coups are effectively over, but with this emerging trend, that positive perception is now being reversed with the rather quick successive coups in the aforementioned countries, alarmed that coups subvert political processes, promote tensions and violence, suffocate democratic spaces, suppress basic freedoms, contain civil society, and promote corrupt and undemocratic governance. Convinced that if the trend is not immediately and firmly checked, it could erode the democratic achievements made thus far, distorting the emerging culture of constitutionalism, and promote opportunistic and undemocratic actors in the region and by extension, the continent. Resolves that the House condemn the coups in the strongest terms possible. 2, urge the federal government to strongly condemn the coups, impose strong sanctions, and mobilize other nations and stakeholders to impose very extensive sanctions. 3, urge civil society organizations across the sub-region and internationally to condemn the coups, support civil society, political parties, and parliaments to work for the immediate restoration of democratic governance in the affected nations. And 4, call on the United Nations and its agencies, as well as the international community at large, to impose total sanctions on those countries where coups have taken place in West Africa.
The worst form of democracy is far better than a benevolent dictatorship. So as such, we should always strive to jealously guard and protect our hard-earned democracy, especially in the West African sub-region. We have now started witnessing the ugly scenario of military men in uniform usurping power through the instruments of coercion that is given to them in trust for the defense of the territorial integrity of their respective countries, is now used against the people to usurp power illegally and force an undemocratic governance on the people.
Mr. Speaker, while condemning it, it is also a time for us to talk to ourselves, especially the leaders in African continent, because the manner in which the people are suffering, the manner of bad leadership that is pervading the African continent is something that we must look into. While we are against military coup, it is now time for our leaders to live up to expectation. It is now time for our leaders to ensure that the people that they lead, that they are giving the effective, good governance that will mitigate against them having any bad feelings.
Stay tuned for Question of the Week. Remember, if you're sending in your response, you shall include your full name and your location so that we can be able to reach out to you. Next is the powers of the legislature. Well, this is where we wrap up on this week's episode of the program Legislative Update. Join me again next week, same time and same station. I remain your host, Charity TANKO. Enjoy the rest of your week. Bye.